The Weekend UpNate.
The Weekend UpNate.
Your weekly recap of news, current events, and trending stories. Let's do this. The Weekend UpNate with your host, Nate Armbruster.
This is episode 52. I hope you had a great weekend. I did. I had some family in town, and we had a good time. My brother and sister-in-law came to visit, and it was a lot of fun. I don't get to see them very much, so when they come to visit, I always look forward to it. And, you know, I've been in Chicago for long enough now that all of the standard touristy stuff is kind of old. It's like it doesn't really, it's not fun anymore to go visit, or I don't want to say that. It's just not cool anymore. I've seen it enough. You know, once you live somewhere for a while, it all becomes kind of normal. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not impressive anymore. So when family comes, they always want to go see it, and you usually do it just because you're trying to show them a good time in the city, right? So, but we didn't do any of that because they've already seen that stuff. So now it's like you're always looking for something new to do, and you feel like you're running out of ideas. And sometimes you just got to resort to the old school choices, right? And we went bowling. And the best part about this bowling alley is it's called Diversity Lanes, right? You can look it up. It's an old school bowling alley, right? It's like a true bowling alley in the city. It's not a trendy, like, hip spot, which would be, I mean, those places are fun, but I feel like modern bowling alleys are trying too hard, you know? I love the old school, like, kind of dingy, very Midwestern vibe inside. Those are my favorite places to bowl. The other places are cool, but it's always kind of like, this place is trying a little hard. You know what I'm saying? When I go to a bowling alley, I want to feel like I'm going back in time, not into the future. Although cosmic bowling is another whole nother level. We didn't even do that. We went during the day. This is how adults hang. They go bowling during the day, and then by the time they're done, you get dinner and go home. That's how adults hang out. Also, I bowled probably the best I've bowled in my entire life, and I'm not even very good, and I was having a blast. Here's what's great about bowling alleys, especially like the old school ones. It seems like the prices have never changed, okay? I mean, the bill with our group should have been any normal bar, right, with normal modern day prices, probably would have been close to $500. You know what it was? $100. They even we ordered this, like, it's like a beer tower, right? It's literally 100 ounces of beer, and it comes out of a bowling alley at the bottom. You basically have a tap at your table, and that thing only costs $20. It was 100 ounces. Was that like, 8 12-ounce beers roughly, right? For $20 in the city? I think I'm going to just start going to this bowling alley just to drink, you know? Like, who does that, by the way? Like, if I'm just the guy, I'm just the regular at the bowling alley bar in, one of the best cities in the country. Where else can you find a beer for less than $5 in Chicago? If you can tell me, I'll probably just end up going there too. But it seems to me like bowling alleys are like the last place you can go to and get kind of a taste of what things used to be like when it comes to prices, food quality, and cleanliness, okay? Because they still make you rent shoes, and I mean, a lot of people have worn these shoes, and in a post-COVID era, it's disgusting, okay? Bowling, after going through a whole pandemic, I can't believe it made it, okay? Name another industry like this that somehow got through it, because, restaurants, they have, like, cleanliness standards, right? Bowling alleys, what do we got? They got that spray that they spray the shoes with when you return it, okay? And that guy behind the counter doesn't give a shit about his job. He's not even spraying it correctly. This guy just sprayed the heel. This is the shit I think about, by the way, when I'm just trying to go have fun with my family, and I'm stuck talking to the shoe rental guy, like, are you sure you're not supposed to spray down in it? This seems pretty gross. I mean, how many nasty, sweaty feet have been in these goddamn shoes? It's so gross. And we still do it. We're totally okay with it. Even after a pandemic, we all did it. The vaxxed, the unvaxxed, We're all just, I don't know. It's so funny. Like you want normal or quote unquote normal after a pandemic, and then you realize that was normal. And now you're just kind of like, ugh, this is still pretty gross. And then we put our hands in these nasty ass bowling balls that haven't even been, I guarantee you they haven't been cleaned. Not once. And at the same time, this place was sold out, man. There wasn't one open lane all afternoon. We were there for like 2 or 3 hours and not one open lane the whole time. Kids' birthday parties, kids, adults. It was madness. And the whole time I'm bowling, all I could think about was how crazy some of the technology that goes into this. I mean, even this old school bowling alley, right? Like the ball's just sent back to you. You know, that used to be someone's job. Same with setting up the pins. And I'd like to think that when all that shit changed, right, when somebody developed the machinery to send your ball back automatically to reset the pins, I would imagine there were tons of people who were super pissed about that. How many people lost a job to a bowling pin, an automatic bowling pin? This is like what fast food workers are going through right now. There's no technology yet that's like at least on the market that can completely make the entire order and then get it out the drive-through window yet, right? But you know, as soon as they do, I mean, it's over for fast food workers, right? Like one day we're going to be at McDonald's and, you know, we'll put our order. Not one person will be in the building, right? We'll be there by yourself ordering food and it'll come out in record time. It'll be like, man, this used to be someone's job. I still think it's funny people get mad at people who don't want to work at fast food for less than $20 an hour. All right, now maybe that is a lot of money to work at a fast food, but I those people don't normally know what it's like to work in a fast food environment. It is nuts. If you can actually compare it to like a top restaurant, right? Like a Michelin-starred restaurant. Take your favorite high-end restaurant, right? And then think of the pressure that goes into it. And the hours, the demand, the stress, all of that, even though it's a different environment, different clientele, and different employees, let's be honest. You know, people who aren't like trained, I mean, they're not exactly chefs, you know what I'm saying? It's food Legos, you know, you put this here, this here, this here. I've done it. I would be willing to bet that those two environments are equally stressful for different reasons, but equally stressful. The speed and accuracy and the urgency that they expect from their employees, I think, you know, deserves $20 an hour. And people who like disagree with that don't seem too eager to just go work at McDonald's then. You know what I mean? Like this whole no one wants to work argument is just, there's so many holes in it. Because who the hell wants to work in fast food? Nobody does, you know? Nobody like thoroughly loves it. I mean, maybe there's a couple, but I mean, we need those people, you know? They're like the backbone of the industry. The people that show up to work because they love it. But I've done the fast food thing and it is not fun. Also, I want my fast food employees to be happy. You know, I don't want them to be stressing about how they're going to feed their kids the whole time they're making my burger. That's a sad burger. But anyway, so thanks to my family for coming to visit. That was a good time. Oh, by the way, I'm still haven't had a drink all of January, right? Doing well. This I guess we're doing dry. I guess you can call it dry January, which I ran into a few people this weekend who are doing dry January. And when you run into somebody doing dry January at the bar, like someone you know, and you're like, you kind of just end up finding each other. Like both people who are doing dry January end up in the same corner somehow. And it's like, it comes out that you're both doing it. And you're like, oh, good. Someone who isn't going to make fun of me for doing dry January. Now, it's not that I'm embarrassed. It's just like, you gotta ask, when you're at a social event, you're seeing people that you know, and people are like, oh, you're not drinking? And then you gotta fucking do the whole thing like, oh, you dry January. Oh, and then it's like, why are you doing dry January? And I'm like, I don't know, because I want to. Why are we talking about this? Hot tip for anybody because you can still go out and not drink. And in fact, I would argue it's more fun, I'm learning, because first of all, I can drive. I can drive. I drove the whole family this weekend, right? I was the DD all weekend. And I kind of like that because once you commit to it, you can just be like, you got the perfect excuse to not take a drink. Also, if you're going to one of these, somewhere where people are going to be drinking and you don't want to drink that night, here's a little hot tip. One of my friends was doing O'Doul's, which I was like, okay, good call. But I'm doing this whole cleanse thing, right? So I still can't have the beer, even though it's not beer. But I can't have the fake beer. So I did soda water in a cup, and it looks like, nobody knows what's in it. You can just tell them it's tequila or something, and then you don't have to answer all their dumb questions about why you're doing dry January. The only thing that sucks about that, though, is like the bartender kind of rolls their eyes because it's technically free. It's water, so they never really charge you for it. So you tip, but still they always just kind of go, oh, fuck, all right. But in my head, I think that's an easy task. As long as the person tips, who gives a shit? So anyway, we'll get on with this. It is a news podcast at the end of the day, right? And I think the first story I want to talk about is Joe Biden. They found classified documents in his garage from when he was vice president. Now, I don't know who they is. It's crazy that people find this shit. Now, if you remember, we went through all this Donald Trump stuff with his documents, whatever. He stole the nuclear codes or whatever. I don't even know if that's true, but that was like the trending Twitter topic at the time, right? People are theorizing what this guy stole and all his intentions with it or whatever. Or was it even intentional? Everybody moves. Like, do you know when you're taking that shit? Because, moving out of the White House, it's not like you're moving apartments, right? Like, they don't just rent a U-Haul and, everything's boxed up. You hire movers for that. But, I've forgotten shit. And sometimes you're just like, that's right. And, like, I feel like the term classified when it comes to government, that could be anything. That could be, like, the president's lunch receipt. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like anything is considered classified for the most part. Now, finding these documents in Joe Biden's garage is the funniest thing to me because, first of all, the irony of, Donald Trump doing it. Now it's like, oh, now you got to watch like liberals pretend like it's not as serious or it's not the same crime. You know what I'm saying? Like it's the same thing, technically. So watching the reactions from those people who, is been pretty funny, but I love that we found these in his garage somehow. Okay, because is that not the oldest old guy thing you've ever heard? Okay, do you know how much shit was in my grandparents' garage? They have no clue what's in there, and finding them in there. And also, I love that this somehow got out. I feel like if you found those documents, it would be like, let's just like put them back. Like nobody needs to know about this. The fact that it got out is funny to me. And the other thing that has people fired up last week is this whole gas stove thing. Okay, so if you haven't heard, gas stoves are apparently dangerous in that the increase in nitrous dioxide as a result of having them actually causes asthma in children. And I don't know. It's so funny watching people react to this news because it's kind of turned all political now. Like the conservatives are like, you'll never take my gas stoves, and then apparently liberals are like the ones who want it. It's turned into like a liberal thing, and at the end of the day, I think it's just what kind of air do you want in your house? I just hope after all of this stuff is settled, whether or not we're allowed to use gas stoves ever again, is that we can still use the phrase, now we're cooking with gas. All right, so that's going to do it for this week. Thank you so much for listening. As always, hit that subscribe button on whatever you're listening on, and tune in next week for another edition of Weekend UpNate.
You've been listening to the Weekend UpNate with Nate Armbruster, and you liked it, didn't you? If you did, make sure to like, rate, and review, and be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast app. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week on the Weekend UpNate.
Bye-bye.